President Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone has emerged as the new chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS, as President Bola Tinubu's two-term reign at the helm of affairs of the regional bloc came to an end. With my guest tonight, we shall be looking at ECOWAS under President Tinubu and what the job ahead is for President Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, considering the complexities of our region. That handover ceremony happened right here in Abuja, and we have those details for you and all that after we update you on the very busy week in Nigeria's presidency. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Let's give you that update, shall we? Here's what happened this week in Nigeria's presidency.
President Bola Tinubu has condemned the killing of travelers in Plateau State, urging security forces to ensure the arrest and punishment of the culprits. According to the statement by the Special Advisor on Information Strategy, Bayo Nanuga, reacting to the news of the murder of 12 wedding guests, including the father and brother of the groom, the president described the heinous action as unacceptable and barbaric. The victims, many of them injured, were traveling from Zaria in Kaduna State to Jos in Plateau State. President Bola Tinubu says Nigeria has opened its doors for new business opportunities and is now truly open for business with the signing of the 4 tax reform bills into law. He was speaking after the short ceremony which took place in the presidential villa, which was attended by the leadership of the National Assembly and some legislators, the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, the chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, some ministers and aides of the president.
We are in transit. We have changed the rule. We have changed some of the misgivings. We have opened the door for new economy, business opportunity. We are showing that Nigeria is truly ready and open for business.
President Bola Tinubu has restated the commitment of his administration to deliver on his campaign promises, including that of delivering quality infrastructure to rural communities. The president restated this pledge at the official commissioning of a 15-kilometer road in Pai community of Kwali Area Council in Abuja.
This project is one of the many we are delivering across the country, and we will not stop. We will continue until every Nigerian can feel the touch of meaningful governance.
The First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, is advocating for budgetary allocation for the Office of the First Lady for intervention projects across the country. Speaking after a meeting with First Ladies of the different states in the country to review the activities of the Renewed Hope Initiative, a social intervention program chaired by the First Lady to uplift vulnerable communities across the country.
We can do more if the resources are there. I'm talking to my colleague. I believe that the Office of the First Lady should be given the credence. I want the Senate, I'm talking to my Senate, because my going to the Senate for 12 years shouldn't be in vain if they are not able to let a First Lady to take a project per year.
President Bola Tinubu has launched 2,000 tractors for mechanized farming. The tractors and other equipment are expected to be deployed nationwide under the Renewed Hope Agricultural Mechanization Program. President Bola Tinubu, who spoke at the launch in Abuja, says the initiative will give a boost to its drive for food security and agricultural mechanization.
This government recognizes that the agricultural productivity is synonymous with national stability and food sovereignty. The ability to nourish our population form the bedrock of a prosperous nation. Our ambition extends beyond mere self-sufficiency. We envision Nigeria as a global agricultural powerhouse, supplying quality produce to international markets while ensuring every citizen has access to affordable nutrition food.
Nigeria and Brazil have signed memoranda of understanding cutting across various sectors, including defense cooperation, combating illicit drugs, power and energy, livestock development, as well as health. The two countries signed the agreements at a strategic dialogue mechanism meeting held in Abuja. Speaking at the event, Vice President Kashim Shettima and the Brazilian Vice President, Mr. Geraldo Alckmin, underscored the importance of the relationship in advancing economic growth between the two countries.
We are removing barriers, we are strengthening systems, and we are creating room for credible partnerships that deliver outcomes, not just documents. Brazil's renewed outreach to Nigeria comes at a moment of realignment. It is a time when we are opening our economy to genuine partnerships, to capital that is responsible, and to ideas that empower our people.
Welcome back. The 67th Ordinary Session of the Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS held right here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. And President Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone emerged as the new chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government. In our focus tonight, we give you details of that handover ceremony and calls by President Bola Tinubu for the activation of the standby force of ECOWAS, moving from concept to operational reality. After hours of waiting, President Bola Tinubu leads the other heads of state into the State House Conference Center in Abuja. As they settle down, the president of the ECOWAS Commission gives the opening remarks.
As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of ECOWAS, let us recall the founding fathers of ECOWAS who decided to put together ECOWAS. Those who joined President Yakubu Gowon, Head of State Yakubu Gowon of Nigeria, to establish ECOWAS deserve our permanent commendation.
President Bola Tinubu has been chairing the Authority of the Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS since 2023. And under him, the organization has made some giant strides, including the establishment of a standby force.
No single nation can therefore address these challenges alone. We must strengthen coordination, amplify political will, and prioritize a collective approach to security. This is why the ECOWAS standby force must move from the concept to operational reality now. I am a little bit worried about the slow pace of its activation, which is taking longer than desired. We must act decisively to operationalize the ECOWAS standby force on the fight against terrorism to serve as an instrument for peace and stability for our region.
After the speeches, the meeting goes into a closed-door session for a few minutes. Members of the media are asked to return for a brief on the outcomes. A new chairman for the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government emerges after the closed-door session.
It has been a profound honor and privilege to lead this esteemed body, and I remain deeply humbled by the trust and support you have extended to me throughout my tenure. As I now hand over the mantle of leadership to my great friend and dear brother, His Excellency, President Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, the new chairman of ECOWAS Authority of States and Government, I do so with a deep sense of fulfillment and optimism for the future of West Africa.
President Tinubu hands over to his successor. President Tinubu vacates the chairmanship seat to take his new seat as a member. In his inaugural speech, President Julius Maada Bio announces key areas his leadership will focus on in the next 1 year.
As chair, I will prioritize
4 key areas. First, restoring constitutional order and deepening democracy. We must engage transitional governments constructively and support member states in building stronger democratic institutions rooted in the rule of law. Second, revitalizing regional security cooperation. We must overhaul our collective security architecture, from intelligence sharing to rapid response to confront new threats with unity and resolve. Third, unlocking economic integration. The ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme, regional infrastructure, and cross-border value chains must become engines of job, trade, and resilience, especially for our women and our youth. Fourth, building institutional credibility. ECOWAS must reform itself and become more transparent, efficient, and responsive to its people's needs. This is how we will rebuild the trust in regional cooperation. I believe West Africa's future is not one of decline, but of possibility, if we act with courage, urgency, unity, and moral clarity. Let us rise to the moment together, not as separate nations, but as a unified community of destiny. Thank you all, and may God bless us and our region, West Africa.
With that, the event comes to a close as President Bola Tinubu and the other heads of state in ECOWAS make their way out of the hall. But the president of the ECOWAS Commission engages members of the media for more on the outcomes of their engagements.
With regard to our relations, ECOWAS's relations with the members, the 3 member states that have withdrawn and formed the Alliance of Sahelian States, the authority has decided on the appointment of a suitable candidate as the chief negotiator to lead the discussion with the 3 countries. They will consult on candidates, and the chair of the authority will do the formal appointment based on some suggestions that will be made to the authority by the ECOWAS Commission. ECOWAS may have been facing challenges just like any institution, but ECOWAS remains what it is.
With terror attacks and other security concerns ongoing, the ability of ECOWAS to respond to threats has been further reduced following the exit of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger from the bloc under the leadership of their respective military rulers. These exits happened under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu and has drawn criticism from several quarters. Calls for the standby force of ECOWAS to move from concept to operational reality are in high gear at the moment, amidst rising fears of high poverty levels in ECOWAS, as 27% of ECOWAS's population lives below the extreme poverty line of $2.15. The new chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio, has his work cut out for him as he assumes office. With us tonight to examine the highs and lows of President Tinubu's time as ECOWAS chair, the job ahead for the new ECOWAS chair, and the prospects and drawbacks of an activated standby force of ECOWAS is my guest tonight, Ambassador Chuka Udedibia, former ambassador of Nigeria to the Netherlands. Ambassador Udedibia, welcome again to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk about where we are right now, because a lot has happened. There's a new chair for the ECOWAS, the authority of the heads of state and government of ECOWAS. And it's coming at a time when we're looking at ECOWAS and its ability to really, enforce democratic principles and be secure and also grow economically. But let's take a look back at the term of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as chair of the authority of heads of state in ECOWAS. The highs and the lows in your view?
Definitely, there were highs and lows. Let me begin with the achievements. What happened during President Bola Tinubu's chairmanship of the authority of heads of state and government is that he released funds to ECOWAS by paying Nigeria's access contributions in full for the first time in nearly 20 years. And of course, part of it was even our arrears, a little part of it, amounting to nearly 170 billion naira. I think ECOWAS made other achievements. One is the establishment of the standby force. In fact, the activation, not just the establishment. Why I say the activation is that, you remember, we had ECOWAS before, which stabilized the situation in...
It's still considered a concept. It's not yet...
That's why I use the word activation.
Activation, okay.
Yeah. We used to have ECOWAS, which helped stabilize the situation in Liberia. The logistics for making it permanent, some of them have been set in motion. They are discussing them, including, in actual fact, the deployment bases should be in Nigeria, Senegal, and Ghana.
Yes.
And then the contribution arrangement. There are so many factors, for making it permanent that ECOWAS discussed and agreed upon, and some they are working on at the moment regarding the standby force. The establishment of, what do you call it again? The renewable energy and electrification, that infrastructure was constructed in Mali. In fact, Mali and the Gambia, during this period, and of course Mali welcomed it, ECOWAS gave $4 million to what it called, the group it described as the frontline states. It's all part of the security, East security efforts within the sub-region. To the frontline states are the states that face the highest level of insecurity within the sub-region. And these states are Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. They gave them $4 million. And then $9 million across the sub-region for all the 15 members, including these three, to handle issues of internally displaced persons, refugees, asylum seekers, and host countries are hosting some of these refugees. And they prioritized it according to the level of insecurity in each country. And the areas where the level of insecurity are highest are Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. So these countries took a greater part of that money, of those funds, even though they are no longer, or to them, they are no longer part of ECOWAS. In effect, what I'm saying is that even though before the public, it appears that there is schism, serious schism between the two sides, but there are some undercurrents. Certain back channel activities are going on that are very positive.
So we've looked at the highs. What are some of the lows? that you would point out?
The lows are serious as the highs, you know. And one of them, in fact, the most prominent of them, is the withdrawal of 3 countries from ECOWAS that I mentioned, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. You know, it ought not to have happened at all. You know, it ought not to have happened.
What could President Tinubu have done
Well,
differently,
yes,
in your mind?
What the president could have done differently, and it would have worked perfectly, was when the thing happened, and the ECOWAS met that particular Sunday, it was on a Sunday, they had an emergency meeting, you know, and the matter came up as they share, particularly since the issue was about Niger. Remember, the other 2 had been suspended, and they accepted it. And the ECOWAS itself had no problem with that. What the president, in my own view, should have done was to tell other heads of state and government that, okay, all right, we have had it, it's a serious matter, leave it to me, let me handle it. I don't know if you get the point. Let's just leave it.
You should have done
should have told them
closed-door negotiations.
Exactly. Just leave it, because our relations with Niger is such a symbiotic one that we could not afford threatening that country, because that was what infuriated the others to have left ECOWAS and formed the Association of Sahel States, you know, and so on. And, you know, considering our influence in ECOWAS, if the president had told them that, of course, they would not have any choice. They will agree. But we were in the forefront. It shouldn't have been so.
There were other issues that were raised about the standby force. Now, the argument has always been, I think we've had this conversation before, this is an economic community.
Yes.
We have no business
Yes.
interfering.
Yes, that's my position too.
Yes, no business interfering in the politics.
Yes.
Or in the governance of these other countries.
Yeah, I agree.
So the concept of a standby force, and in many ways, people have said that was what caused the demise of ECOMOG, is that it's meddlesome. You have no business getting into, on whose side, if there was a conflict in Niger, and it was between 2 warring factions, and both of them are struggling for the top seat in the land. If the people, you don't know how the people think, the person in power might not be the person that the people want. The people may want someone else to usurp power. And we've seen that, at least in narratives we're hearing about Burkina Faso and whatnot. So as ECOMOG, in Burkina Faso's case, for instance, whose side would a standby force be on? You would take sides in an internal conflict? Those are some of the issues.
I agree with you. That's also my position.
Okay.
But I differ from your view slightly. You know, you see, in terms of meddling, in terms of this so-called democratic or constitutional change of government, we don't need it. You know, let them decide how they run themselves. If we really need something like that, let it be out of ECOWAS. Let it be a different organization.
As we wrap up, Madabio.
We're already wrapping up?
Yes, we are. President Madabio.
Yeah. That's a good one.
What should be, he outlined some of it in his acceptance speech.
Yeah.
But from someone who's in the diplomatic space, what should he be having at the forefront of his mind?
Bio will have less problem. All he needs to do is to follow the steps the president took and take it further by relating through the back channel with the 3 that left. We need them back. ECOWAS should look critically into that protocol, the protocol on constitutional change of government. Reason, you see, that protocol lays a lot of emphasis on coups as the main basis, or in fact, they see coups as the only means of unconstitutional change of government. They do not look at presidents that overstay their tenure, because that's in fact, these are some of the things that motivate the coups in the first place.
Absolutely.
They do not look at presidents that win 99.9% of elections. They do not look at the president that inherited the presidency of their parents or their father, just like Eyadema, you know, who is part of the decision-making team among the heads of state and government because he inherited, he was not elected. I don't know if you get the point. These are unconstitutional, are also, in addition to coups, unconstitutional change of government. And if these other factors are taken into the consideration, they will check coups.
I want to thank you
Yeah.
very much, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Udedibia, for being with us on Dateline Abuja. Thanks for all of your insights.
Yeah,
and good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
Thank you.
Thanks to my guest and to everyone who spoke to us today on the program. We are in an era of legacies, so this change of guard provides another opportunity for ECOWAS leaders to make a positive mark on its people. This economic community has such potential to be one of the greatest in the world. All it takes is proper coordination, exemplary leadership, responsible governance, and some out-of-the-box thinking. Good luck to President Julius Maada Bio of Sierra Leone, the new chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handle showing right now on your screens. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kayla Magwa. See you next time.